In 1642, a group of Ngāti Tūmata Kōkiri saw something no Māori had ever seen before.
Sitting off the coast of their home in Golden Bay were a pair of giant triple-masted sailing ships. They belonged to the Dutch East India Company under the command of Abel Tasman.
To Māori, these ships must have seemed bizarre. The people on board looked pretty weird too. Pale skin, strange clothes and completely new technology.
What happened next is, well, let's just say that Māori-Pākehā relations did not get off to a great start.
I'm Lee Madam McLaughlin.
And I'm William Ray.
Welcome to the Aotearoa History Show. We should say all we have to go on for this encounter is Tasman's diary because no oral traditions of this meeting have survived from the Māori side. So, according to Tasman, 2 waka full of Ngāti Tūmata Kōkiri warriors paddled out to challenge the intruders. They chanted and blew on putatara, which are trumpets made from conch shells.
This was standard protocol for greeting strangers. Make yourself look as threatening as possible and challenge the newcomers to a fight so they don't assume you're an easy target. The newcomers were supposed to respond with a series of ritual greetings to establish they came in peace.
But Tasman's crew responded by sounding their own trumpets, then firing a blast of fire and smoke from a cannon.
The Dutch explorers assumed this was all just a friendly greeting. They brought their ships closer to shore, hoping they could trade with Māori for supplies.
But in the minds of Ngāti Tūmata Kōkiri, the signals were obvious. The strangers had accepted their challenge. The next step was war.
The next day, another waka filled with Ngāti Tūmata Kōkiri warriors attacked a small boat which was ferrying people between the 2 sailing ships, killing 4 of Tasman's sailors.
Then they sent out a fleet of waka to press their attack.
But the Dutch had powers Ngāti Tūmata Kōkiri had never seen. Here's how Tasman described what happened. 11 waka, swarming with men, came toward us. We kept quiet until some of the first were within shot. We fired 1 or 2 shots from the gunner's room, but without effect. The Zihane fired 2 and hit, in the largest waka, 1 man who stood with a white flag in his hand so that he fell down. The waka quickly rowed back to shore and Tasman's ships sailed away. This was the first meeting between Māori and Europeans. Not exactly the best start, but we have to remember how alien these 2 cultures were.
Māori had no frame of reference for people outside of New Zealand. It was hard to imagine people who didn't understand the nuances of ceremonial warnings and peaceful greetings. So in that context, you can understand why Ngāti Tūmata Kōkiri responded to the Dutch with violence.
Abel Tasman didn't stay in Aotearoa long. He sailed along the west coast of the North Island and traced a ragged line on his map. He didn't know if what he'd found was an island or the edge of a giant continent.
Later, a famous map maker gave a label to that line of coast, Nova Zealandia, aka New Zealand.
This first encounter seems like a really big deal from today's perspective because eventually Aotearoa was colonised by Europeans.
But really, Tasman's visit didn't have any serious impact on Māori or Europeans. He didn't leave behind any introduced animals or tools. He only interacted with 1 small group of Māori and he didn't stick around long enough for those Māori to learn anything about the European world. It was more than 100 years before Māori saw another European, and this was a totally different story to Tasman.